into that spiritual, actual, factual answers to questions you're asking. You find them inside you, recite you, reciting the records. Akashic, we laughing, we drafting the passion through vary. It's time for that comedy, dramedy, all of the fanciest, catchiest acronyms. Listeners, listen, we traveling. Consciousness is always unraveling. The reading you're having is mapping you back to your natural habitat. Abracadabra, it's magicless, passing it. To top it off, the host, all the classiest. Now, what were you asking for? All of the answers? What? All the answers.
All right.
Now I'm recording too.
What's going on? How the hell are you?
I woke up abruptly because I was not sleeping very well. Kept going back to sleep, kept waking up, kept going back to sleep. Then I was like, well, I have to get up pretty soon, right, to get ready to record the podcast. And then at like 7:30, I woke up like, and I was like, oh shit, I gotta get out of bed. And then luckily, thankfully, we delayed the start time.
Oh, so that was good.
So that was a good thing.
Oh, good. I'm glad to hear that. That's awesome. You just had a night where you couldn't sleep?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't like insomnia. I just went to bed, a little late, and then was waking up a lot, and then went back to sleep a lot.
Gotcha.
But it didn't feel bad, and I feel fine. But that 7:30 abrupt did kind of get my heart, that.
Yeah, oh yeah.
When you sort of do the,
Well, good morning. It's the worst.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't like it. You know what else I don't like?
What? Let's talk about things we don't like. I'll complain. I have more complaints.
Getting caught in a hotel 3 hours from my house at 2 p.m. because the sky is black and shitting lightning in such a way that I end up waiting in said hotel from 2 p.m. till the following morning at 4 a.m., whereupon I had 2 hours sleep because just like we were talking about just now, I went to bed at 10, taught my class 8 to 10 p.m., stand-up comedy. Immediately got in the bed. Here I am in the bed, covers up, hotel, ready for sleeping. Sleep, go. Nope. Wide awake till 2 a.m. Pass out at 2 a.m. Alarm goes off at 4 because the only window of 3 hours, it was a 3-hour drive with no terrible, terrible nightmarish weather, was from 4 to 7. So I drive from 4 to 7 and it was fine. And I got back and I was ruined yesterday. Had to cancel my morning class, had to move some people again, which I felt terrible about.
Only you, though.
And here we are.
You are the magnet of you are like reverse Storm from X-Men.
Except, okay, let's just acknowledge.
You have been a weather witch sometimes.
Well, what I was going to say is on a 5-day drive across country, 5 days of driving, 2 days of resting, 2 days of hiding from weather. There was a total of 5 hours of problematic weather in 30 hours of driving. So like the rest of it was sunny and perfect. It's a lot of really good driving.
Yeah, that's the rule.
Yeah.
Generally, that's what we all experience.
I know.
And we all experience weather. We don't all experience every time we drive lightning storm that drives you off the road.
However, I would say in this case, probably most people would have kept driving. It wasn't like it was me panicking because of past experiences.
Right.
Hold on a second. My GarageBand stopped recording. That's weird. Disk overload. What does that mean?
One of the exercises that you're supposed to figure out what you would want to do. If PC load letter, what the fuck does that mean?
Some cool audition stuff again. I'm like obsessed with these agents out here. I like can't get over how amazing they are.
That's phenomenal.
If I book like one thing they sent me, I'll be very happy. I don't know. They're blowing my mind.
I haven't seen an audition in months.
I wouldn't know an audition if it hit me in the audition.
I wouldn't know an audition if it bit me in the testicles.
I like the idea of like a Greek god named Testicles.
We definitely cast an entire Greek pantheon one time when I was working on a show of, the hero Testicles, who, what were the other ones? The god of, he was looked over by the goddess Fallopia. Who was, they were in the land of Labia Minor, and
this is delightful what you're doing.
Yeah, the muses were Kotex, Tampax, and Playtex were their muses that inspired their poetry.
I love it. What show was this you were doing this on?
Oh, dude, this was 40 years ago. This was We were doing a play at the Luther Burbank Center in Santa Rosa, my freshman year of college.
Wow.
So this would have been 87, 88.
Oh my God.
I'm old.
Grandpa was making some poo jokes back before you were alive.
I've been making that Greek testicles joke since before you were a twinkle in your own man's testicles.
I can't even find the Zoom folder to delete things from. Where is it? Where is it, Cassidy? Where?
I don't know, because you have a stupid Mac that is stupid and hard to get around its stupidness. How do I feel about Macintosh? Not great.
So didn't like that whole situation, but I said to a friend yesterday, I was like, I've never loved Jacksonville, Florida more than I do right now.
When it's a safe haven, it's a beautiful thing.
Which brought up a really cool concept that I think we should talk about today spiritually. I'm ready to talk about it. It's called contrast, but let's come back to it after you say words.
Well, I was going to give you my minor other complaint, and then I was going to tell a story a little later on. But I will tell you that I don't feel good in the tummy. I went to a lovely place yesterday that mimics the experience apparently of being at like a ramen station in a train station in Japan, where you put in your order on like a screen, and then it just comes into a window and goes, your order is ready, and you take it out. There's a kitchen in the back, and it's been recommended. It's a good place. The food was delicious, but I shouldn't have drank the last of my broth. That put me over the edge. It was so rich.
Oh, wow.
That I felt nauseous later. Not like I had food poisoning nauseous, like, oh God, get it out. It was just like, that was too much salt and too much, like my system, you understand, it's just sort of system overload.
Yeah.
And then this morning, I'm still like crampity, little snurpity, burpity, food, not happy. I just need to poop a bunch and burp a bunch. I need both directions to let loose a lot of air in the form of gas.
You know what I find too a lot is that I was talking about this yesterday too, about if you wake up, if you don't sleep well or you wake up too early for your own body's rhythms, it fucks with your digestion because there's
100.
Yeah, because there's specific shit at specific times of the night that the digestive system is doing. So that was part of what was so hard for me the other day was 2 hours of sleep. That time from 4 to 7, I spent the entire time physically in pain because my digestive system was really? What we're trying to do all kinds of stuff for you. And this is how you treat us?
If I'm significantly denied sleep, I will pee constantly the next day.
Really?
For some reason, it squeezes every last bit of moisture from my cells.
Weird.
And forces it out through my urethra.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
This is way TMI. So listener.
Great.
Fucking trigger content, blood warning. Got my period at 2 a.m.
Oh.
So I was cramping, bleeding, didn't have enough sleep, farting, needed to diarrhea, but had to drive within 3 hours. So I couldn't stop a lot. It was a mess. I'm surprised I didn't shit all over the inside of that rental car.
Fuck that rental car. Or actually, was it a good rental car?
It's both. I was saying this also. It's both thank you so much, rental car, for getting me here, and fuck the fuck off.
For the price?
I never need to fucking see. No, the price was okay. It was just the whole experience was so exhausting that my association with that trip is with that car. So I'm just okay, bye car. Want to hear some good news though?
Yeah.
I, for the first time ever, when renting a car, purchased it was $10 a day extra to anything physical bad that would happen to the car was covered.
Yeah.
And shit, it stopped recording again.
Yeah. That's it. That's exactly what I need. Uh-huh. Yeah, give it to me. Come on, you little... Let's go. That's what I need. Let's do that. Let's do exactly that.
I started it again. So I don't know what the fuck. Oh, I purchased the insurance.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was an 18-wheeler in front of me at one point that had its top open. And the 18-wheeler was filled with sand.
No.
Yes. And the sand was flying out the top of the 18-wheeler truck bed into all the cars. All the cars are swerving and trying to get around it. And I was like, that has to be illegal. It's incredibly dangerous. Anyway, tiny pebble flew out of the thing, smashed my windshield. There's a big, huge smash on the rental car. Yep. Windshield, cracked it. And it like spidered out across the entire thing on the bottom. Yeah.
But I'm glad you bought the thing, Katie.
I know. So that was on the second to last.
I don't think I'm going to travel with you.
It's a good idea. It's a good idea.
Or maybe you need someone to travel with you, actually.
That's also a good idea.
To reset the buttons.
I've thought of both things.
I'll travel with you, Katie. I will.
Thank you. Okay, so the story, though, the end of it is, here's this fucking spider smash. And I'm like, I have another 48 hours in this car, or like two days of driving, 16 hours. Is this going to hold? Particularly if it rains. So it did. It held fine. And then even in the rain, it held fine. I got it back to the place. I told the lady immediately. I was like, well, the window is fucked. She was like, oh, well, your stuff covers it. Have a good day. No problem. I thought it was going to be like an extra $1,000 or like, now I got to wait for them to replace. I didn't know what they were going to do.
Oh, man.
So it was covered, and I had to extend the rental by 2 days, 2 extra days to pay for the car. But it turned out my deposit they made me put down covered it.
Okay.
So like no extra cost at all, which was a way better outcome than I was very concerned about while all this was going on. And I called them on the road and figured all that out. The whole thing is so tiring. I have to stop talking about it. I'm just so happy. I'm here. I have my house. I have my dogs. The dog reunion, of course, was profound and wondrous. I've just like been worshiping them since I'm back. So let's talk about contrast, unless you had things you were going to say.
I want to talk about synchronicity first, just to get that out of the way, because I have more bizarre synchronous stories, which just keep happening, and I'm loving it.
I'm ready.
It's super fun. So I want to say Tuesday, which is a few days ago for us, I was at the Speechless Studios, where they have an awesome video village, super great. Yeah, like a whole studio set up there. It's really awesome.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, they've built a really beautiful, they have one of those full screens behind them of like digital screens that they can put any background up on and everything. It's really neat.
Wow, I love that.
Anyway, we were shooting a bunch of content for their, basically what they're calling their arcade in their channel, whatever. So that to share like video versions of to demonstrate the games and exercises that we do.
Oh, cool.
And they're doing a really like high quality shoot of this with some lovely people, some people that we know. With Fontana was there. And
is that where that picture was that you sent me?
Yes.
Oh, so
I sent you a picture of me and Fontana and Diana Brown. I don't know if you know her. She's also an improviser. And so that's the context. First thing, we get in there and the cameraman, who is a guy, I think I might have met him before. His name is Justin, and he looks exactly like our logo designer, Rob Dario. Like, exactly. Like, I am telling you, it's Rob Dario. Well, except it's not exactly. It's one of those like, oh my God, that is so much like Rob Dario that it's not exactly Rob Dario. But I can't get over how much he keeps giving me Rob Dario vibes.
Wild.
That was just interesting and weird. And then he speaks, and I'm like, well, it's Rob Dario. Like, are you sure you're not Rob Dario?
Weird.
His voice sounds just like him. So that's a trip, and it's tripping me out all day. Put a pin in that, okay? A little later in the day, we're sitting there having, I'm sitting on the side while they're setting up to shoot 2 other people playing a game. And Vivek, who is one of the main people at Speechless, and you know Vivek, he
Really good dude.
He and I are chatting, and I start to tell him a story. I'm like, you know what my favorite moment in Speechless was in the Speechless show when I used to do those shows? And I start to tell him, and I'm going to tell you the story, but I'll just let you know. That's as far as I got, because they were like, settle, getting ready to shoot. And so I didn't get anywhere with my story. But had I continued with the story, it would have gone like this. I think you were there. Vivek, you might have been hosting. I had an app called Can I Poop Here that I was pitching, which was an amazing app, which I actually think should be made. Like, it's an actual good idea, like where you have an app where you're out in the world, and you're like, where can I poop? And you're like, you hit what's near me, what's good. People would rate it, whatever. It was a good idea for an app. I think I sold it. Anyway, come to find out later that Imodium used to have that on their website.
Okay.
Like a version of that, which is amazing. Anyway, that's not the story. Story is, and then the final picture that was up on the slide behind me in this game, which is you do a pitch in front of a slide deck you've never seen before. That's how Speechless works. And they're just throwing them up. They've pre-made the slides, so no one's back there like live mixing the slides to say this will be funny for the final slide. That's the slide deck I was given. And the final slide is a creepy man in a rabbit suit in a bathroom stall, sliding over and like patting the toilet next to him, like as if to say, you can poop here. Like it was the most perfect mic drop. That was synchronicity 5, 6, 7 years ago when that happened to me. Okay, all that is to say, that's the story I was about to tell Vivek. Like, remember that time that I had that thing and then that was the slide that came up? I didn't get anywhere. I just said, you know what my favorite time at Speechless was? I was giving that app about, never mind. And then, quiet, here we go. Meanwhile, Shockwave, who is, or Chris Sullivan, who is the beatboxer for Freestyle Love Supreme, name drop, sorry. There you go. He has a thing where he constantly airdrops memes into Vivek's phone nonstop. It's a joke they have. He's just always just raining memes and GIFs onto Vivek. And Vivek's occasionally showing me some, oh my God, Chris, he just showed me this one. Chris is across the room. He didn't hear my story. He wasn't there for it. He knows nothing about it.
Right. I see where this is going.
Then Vivek shows me the fucking bunny in the stall. And I just say to Vivek, oh yeah, that's the one. And he looks at me like I'm crazy. What do you mean? What's the one? I'm just showing you this random ass visual. And then we get into it because they've called cut. And I'm like, wait, what? Oh my God. No, I was literally going to describe that video. How did he, what? Brain melt. We're freaking out. That's all. That's the first little beat of weird ass synchronicity. Like so specific.
So cool.
So like narrow band, laser focus. This is the punchline to your setup.
Wild.
And then
that's wild.
Yeah, that in itself was wild because it was synchronicity on top of the synchronicity of when it happened 7 years ago at the show.
Wild. Two layers, at least.
Yeah. And then I've been seeing this guy that is Rob Dario, our logo designer. I'm just going to keep saying his name because he designed our visuals for our show.
Yeah.
And I only seen that man once in 6 years, and it was kind of recent. Maybe that's why he was on my mind. I saw him at a friend's birthday gathering, and we only chatted briefly. We just didn't get a chance to really reconnect. But I haven't gotten an email from that guy since he designed our logos 4 or 5 years ago, right?
Right.
I get in my car thinking, God, that guy looks like Rob Dario.
No
Open
way.
my email.
No.
And I have an email from Rob Dario.
Stop it.
The most, I almost feel like I should read it because it's the most poetically beautiful,
in true Rob Dario style.
In true Rob Dario, just loving, lovely. There it is. And it's entitled Circuitry is the name of the thing. And it just says, great seeing you at the show, and thanks for relaying that you still think about me. The world is built by thoughts, intentions, and heart, and we keep going on because of others' remembrances. It is the ether, the breath, and life, and it's not lost on me that the myriad of friends and acquaintances who aren't exactly family, but are still yet the same. It's just good to hug sometimes.
Fucking Dario.
But I've been seeing Rob all day long.
My mind is blown.
And then he sends me this just hug of a fucking email that also talks about the web of life and the web of humanity.
Again, 2 layers.
Yeah. Get the fuck out of here with your weird shit happening.
With your synchronistic nonsense, bullshit shenanigans.
Synchronistic Shenanigans is the name of my techno band.
Vafangu with your shenanigans, would you?
Spray coffee all over the screen. That was funny. So that's my fucking whack-ass more synchronicity stories. They just keep happening.
I'm loving it. You know who else is having...
I'm awake to them.
You know who else is having them? I'm sure you do.
Rami?
Yes.
No, we haven't actually gotten to talk for a few days. So,
yesterday and today, it's been ping, ping, weird, weird, magic, magic, ping in Rami land. And you two are so tied together that it makes me wonder what the connection is between the two of you having synchronous stuff. And as for, do you remember, this is some cool shit too. Do you remember when I almost got struck by lightning twice on that drive?
I don't mean to laugh, but again,
you should laugh.
What?
It's funny. Yeah, you should laugh. It was the time before I moved to Jacksonville, but I was driving from New York to Jacksonville and I had to pull off the road and lightning hit a tree two times, 10 feet in front of me. Okay.
Yeah. Because that's a thing that happens to
that happens in life.
To most people.
Sure. So I get to the hotel and I'm like, I remember I retroactively looked at my Vedic astrology and it was like dangerous long distance travel. And I had said to myself, never again am I traveling without looking at the Vedic astrology for travel. Okay. So this time, this is a true story. I am in a period still right now of dangerous long distance travel.
When did it start before you got on the plane to come see?
It was for the drive back duration.
Okay.
Which was another reason that I was like, you better believe I am not getting on a fucking plane again.
Yeah.
If it was that turbulent and I didn't have dangerous long distance travel in my fucking chart, better believe I'm not getting on a plane when it's a time of don't get on a plane, Katie Rubin. And I've almost been hit by lightning a bunch of times. So in a way, it's kind of cool that the things occurred on my trip because there they were in the astrology both times.
What the balls.
So yeah. Now let's talk about contrast. First of all, I don't want to cut you off. More to say on synchronicity?
No, that's the end of it. Those things happened and now they have happened.
I'm stoked for you. I mean, how does it make you feel? What does it make you believe or know or feel about the universe or your life?
That's a good question. It's an excellent question. I don't know that it gives me like deep anything except here's what I like about synchronicity. It gives me a slightly giddy feeling. So it brightens the sort of joy in me, in a sense, because I know that there's like an angle of, I know there's like entire conferences called sync conferences and people are really into synchronicity and it can turn dark. It can go into, that's where some paranoid, people can delusional or can turn it into a conspiracy where there isn't conspiracy as opposed to actual, because there's plenty of conspiracy, but we don't need to make shit.
Yeah, man.
We don't need to make these fucking things up, but we do. And I think a lot of people use synchronicity to create stories.
Right. I agree.
Well, if he was there when he was there, then that must mean that they killed Lincoln.
Yeah, or it's meant to be. He called me right when I was thinking of him, so I should definitely date him.
Right.
Not always. In fact, I have a good teaching on that, but carry on.
It's more just like it tunes me up. It says, oh, yeah, wow, look at that shit. And I'm not going to take a deep lesson out of it except to just sort of snort the joy off of the surface of it.
Hot. You can do some synchronistic cocaine right now?
Yeah, syncocaine.
I thought you were just going to say, I'm not going to take a dump about it. But you said, I'm not going to take a...
I'd kind of like to take a dump about it, frankly, the way I'm feeling today. I look forward to a good dump.
Really hear that so loud and clear.
Yeah.
I want to talk about that for 1 second, and then we're talking about contrast. So the...
well, if your dump is high contrast, is that good or bad?
It's really good. So a lot of times I have clients who say, when people are new to the spiritual path or they're getting their spiritual teachings out of like a book they bought once or the internet or some place casually along the ride of life, they'll believe that anything, so let's say I'm 28 years old and I'm obsessed with a boy, a man, and he's bad for me. He's toxic and he's alcoholic and he's unavailable and I want somebody available and sober. And I have a hard time breaking up with him and it's really hard. And finally I do it. I get my courage. I break up with him. And then a few days later, I'm sitting in my house and I'm thinking, I miss him so much. This is so hard. And ping, right then he texts me. People like to make those things mean one specific thing, which is, well, clearly I meant to talk to him.
Right.
Because he pinged me right when I thought of him. Another one people do is they do let's say we're trying to log on to a Zoom meeting to have a healing session, but the Zoom won't work and the Zoom won't work and the Zoom won't work and the Wi-Fi goes out and technology is against us. And people will regularly say, when this happens in my presence, they'll say, well, we weren't meant to talk today. Nope. Not necessarily. Here's the thing about both of these things. The universe, there is something going on, but what we have to do is ask a bunch of questions to ascertain the specific thing that is going on in that moment, which is to say, a lot of times when the toxic ex you broke up pings you, it's because you have, with anybody you've been connected with, a psychic connection. all humans, you don't have to be psychic to have a psychic connection with someone you've had sex with. When you've had sex with someone, or even when you just have a crush on them, there's a heart connection that forms between the two people, and a connection not even of the heart, a connection between so many layers of consciousness. One of which I'll talk about just to make this point is something I learned in Sufi school when I was going through a lot of like learning how to detach from toxic people lessons in my life. And I would ask about this in class. And my teacher taught me this idea. Oftentimes when you have any kind of sexual chemistry with someone, even if you've never done anything with them, there are these energies called jinn, which is this is a Sufi term, but it's a Muslim term, it's whatever. But it really is just another way of saying entities, okay? The entities or demons or other kinds of beings that are attached to you or around you, particularly when you have trauma. So when you have trauma, 9 times out of 10, you have entities or demons, or the Sufis call them jinn, attached to the trauma. Why? Because this is a universe of mirroring. The law of mirroring is real. So what I'm being energetically gets reflected to me in the outside reality. Okay. Also, trauma is a certain frequency. And so the frequency of demons or entities or beings living in another realm that match the energy of that trauma, they'll be drawn to that trauma. They like it. It feels familiar and comfy to them. So we have not only the trauma and the heaviness and the weight and the pain of the trauma, but all the jinn that have been attracted to it. Kind of like the metaphor I like to use is like dust to an open wound. You have a wound on your arm, somebody cuts your arm, dust just gets in there. And you get an infection. That's why you want to put some bacitracin on there or whatever the fuck you put on a wound.
No, nicely done.
Thank you.
Nice brand name work there.
So when you have a sexual chemistry with someone or any kind of connection with them, if you have any trauma around sex, intimacy, love, relationships, attachment styles, anything, there's likely to be jinn attached to that trauma. That other person who you're attracted to also has their own trauma to which jinn is attracted. Now, they taught me this in Sufi school. Your jinn and their jinn have a relationship now. In other words, a lot of times when you think, oh my God, he's calling me right when I thought of him, it's sometimes the jinn dealing with each other. The jinn made that happen. The jinn are like, hey, what's up? And the other ones are like, oh, it's you, hey. And then a connection is built psychically between the two of you. And then the person who has the jinn, the toxic man on the other side of this dynamic, feels your presence and is like, oh, Katie, right, let me see how she is. All of it is being orchestrated by the jinn. I'm
going to take that a step further. It's not just, if we're in a toxic relationship, that those antennae going off, jinn, in the toxic dude is probably like, uh-oh, she's thinking about me. I need to reestablish my control.
Exactly.
I better get back into her. I better strengthen my lines of control here and reach out to her.
Or I want to have control. So here we go. I'm taking over.
She's thinking about me. Boop, 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 boop. Yeah.
100%. And so you can't assume that because a synchronistic psychic thing happens between you and a person, it means it's good and it's meant to be. And the romantic narrative I wish were true is true.
Right.
You have to ask questions. Truth. Is this because I'm meant to contact him? No? Okay. What is it then? What am I to take from this? And once I learned that in Sufi school for myself, I started to do that. And that's how I was able to clear so many entities and demons and so much sex and love addiction-y trauma patterns. Because I started to ask questions. Do I call him? No, he's toxic. Okay, what do I do? Clear it. Clear the wound and the jinn that are engaging with his wound and his jinn. So it's kind of cool shit once you start to get specific. Now, similarly, the other thing we were talking about synchronicities, like when it's something where you're trying to go and the universe is blocking you, that's not always because you're not meant to go there. Sometimes what's happening is, I'll give you a specific example to make this point. When you're a healer and you have a client, right? And let's say the client has a ton of trauma and their higher self really wants to do the sessions to get better. But all that trauma and all those jinn attached to that trauma and their unconscious self and all the parts of them that have not faced any of this yet. And none of those parts of that person want to be addressed. They want to stay right where they are. They will fuck with, when you've got jinn involved, phone reception, technology, the Zoom, So you got to persevere through the interference and not assume it wasn't meant to be. It's not that it wasn't meant to be in some cases. In some cases, it's you're getting interference because some part of you is in big resistance to doing this work. Now, that can also be, let me own this, because it's not just on the client's end. It's sometimes on my end. It can be on the healer's end too. If I don't feel like doing a session, man, my psyche will create some fucking havoc in the airwaves of the Zoom reception. So if I know that's going on, I'll be like, don't worry, I'll email them. Don't worry, give it 2 minutes and it'll be fine. Because I know once I settle in and get on board, it's going to stop happening.
I mean, Brendan and I were trying to play a game in VR last night, and we could not make it work on my end because it was just, I kept glitching out and kept skitzing, and I was like, something wrong. My headset's not working, and Now, mind you, I was also a little nauseous because of the ramen that I'd had with Brendan. We had actually gone there together. Excuse me. And are
you going to shit right now? Are you going to shit in your pants?
They were trying to, maybe they were trying to protect me from further nausea in that game, or maybe that game just had a bug in it.
Or 6 other things I could think of.
Right. Or I wanted to play that game, but my gin didn't for whatever reason. We ended up playing a different game that did work just fine.
Or there were gin attached to the nausea because they'll pull in on nausea.
Yeah.
Or Brendan didn't want to play it. Or there was something going on in your house where there were entities that didn't want whatever. Or your neighbor there's like so much that it can be.
Right. Or I just needed to I just need to delete and
turn the computer off. Yeah, of course. That's always an option.
Could also be that.
Really, it can. Sometimes it's none of these things. It's just like turn the computer off and on, you know? That's why my little message here for folks is like, don't assume that the first narrative that you want to believe is the narrative about why
that's the thing.
The weird spiritual thing that's happening is happening. Don't believe that it's necessarily that. You got to ask questions.
Yeah.
Yeah. Contrast. Ready?
Now, in contrast to that, here's something else, Katie.
About contrast. So I've been synchronistically, interestingly, I'm big into listening to what Teal Swan has to say about stuff. And I find her to be pretty damn on point a lot of times about a lot of things. A lot of people have problems with her. And this could change. I'm currently convinced people's problems with her are simply because she's an attractive white woman who's teaching high concept stuff that is controversial and weird. And we just can't. I
mean, there's an entire expose doc about her on Hulu.
There's a couple, but she has addressed them and been like, I mean, did you hear the story about the one recently?
No.
So
I also haven't watched the doc, so I'm just talking out my ass.
So I've watched the doc and I've heard her response to the doc. I'll tell the shortest version of this. Oh, hi, squeeze. She just gave me the cute face. This real fat. There's a squeeze.
No, looking up at you.
Okay, so this is Teal Swan's version of what happened. Okay, I don't know. I wasn't there. But here's what she says. For 3 years, she had this film crew. She met this company. They asked her if they could do a doc about her. She liked them. She researched them. She vetted them. They hung out a lot. She finally agreed to do it. They lived with her in her house for 3 years. They saw everything. They taped everything. Teal Swan was just like, all right, welcome into my life. You're in. They spent 3 Christmases together. She has footage that she has released. I've seen it of the crew being like toasting her at Christmas and being like, you've become like family to us. We're so honored to be witnessing this great work you're doing. You're helping so many people. We came here thinking we were going to see some nonsense, but you're legit. And we're so honored to be here. It's just like, it's like a toast that a guy said, the head of the crew, whatever. And then at the end of the 3 years, they had finished getting what they wanted. They went away and they, according to her, edited together. They cut it in such a way that makes her look like a complete maniac, asshole, control freak. She was like, so she made a bunch of videos being like, I can't believe what's happening. I've been fully betrayed. These were my friends. Here's footage of us at Christmas. Here's footage of us on a vacation. Here's footage of a thing they said that was nice about me and how they love my work. And then what she did was she released next to each other. Here's the section of the movie where they show me quote, abusing a client. And she shows the video. Remember that from the video, from the documentary you all watched? Now watch this. my team was also shooting that day. Here's their footage. Their footage is like shittier and shakier because it's on like somebody's iPhone or something, because it wasn't a crew. It was just people filming on their phones. It's 4 times as long, and all of the subtle coaching, nurturance, kindness, communication, everything she does as a healer is cut out.
Wow.
Like you see the long version, they cut all that out and they just show the client going, I don't want to, and you're being mean. And then they cut to Teal Swan being very direct and clear. Well, Teal Swan's, which could seem very cold and not caring of the client in the moment. Teal Swan's footage has, that reaction is from literally a different client and a different interaction. They fully cut it together the way they wanted you to see it.
Gotcha.
Now, again, that's just her perspective. How do we actually know what reality is? We don't. I happen to believe her because with all the stuff I've studied and all the shit I've looked at so far, this woman is just on point over and over again. And I don't know. I just believe her. I don't know what to say. I just believe her. I could be wrong. Yeah. Of course. I just believe her. Anyway, and her whole career, people have been trying to take her down because this really pisses me off. This is like such a patriarchal American white capitalist nonsense shitball storm. Her story of how she became who she is and learned what she's learned and grew in the way she's grown starts with she was ritually sexually abused in a kind of like demonic sex cult. Like really dark shit happened. When she first came on the scene, decades ago, she was open about it and was telling people, well, all this dark shit happened. And then I had to do all this trauma work. And now I know some stuff. All the news. So she's going on news outlets and she's getting publicity and she's talking openly about herself and her journey. They took all of that to be fake. They were like, we don't believe you're in a sex cult. There's no such thing as sex cults. What? If you were ritualistically abused, why isn't your face scarred up and fucked up? Like, just didn't believe her. Just didn't believe her and said, no, you weren't. And then that was that. And then she learned, and she's talked about this in videos, I was ignorant and thought, if I tell people my vulnerable truth, that'll make them understand I'm telling them the truth. It was like, I thought I was building trust to be like, look, I've been all fucked up and I had to do work. And that's how I know some things. Now I want to help people. No, it was just used against her to make her look crazy, to validate everything she said, to take her down a peg. So she was like, now I understand I can't, looking the way I look in this world, I can't tell you what's going on with me. Right. Because it just gets used against me. So now I talk about you and what's going on with you. And I use my experience, but I don't refer to my own journey. And I think she's right on. Yeah. Because what attractive woman could come forward and be like, I can help people heal in a mystical, other dimensional way, but also that's very grounded and integrated. Oh, and I have all the answers to all the questions anyone could ever have. Who's going to not take issue with that in our world? Right. From a woman. We got to take that down. It's got to be a lie. Then this is how far it goes. I listen to a podcast sometimes called Scamfluencers. Have you heard this? Do you know about that? No, but I like the idea. It's a good name. And I enjoy the show. I'm listening. I'm cooking my eggs. I'm living my life. And one day they're like, now this episode, Teal Swan. And I'm like, what? So I listened to the episode. I'm like, okay, well, fuck. Maybe they found the scam that's here. And maybe I'm about to, get some humble pie and learn that Teal Swan is full of shit. The entire episode is these two women on Scamfluencers referencing the doc that I'm talking about. Yeah. And just quoting things other people have said about why she's fake. They don't talk about her content. They don't say anything about what she said in response to these accusations of her. They just quote things they read on the internet. They're like, this place said, and these people said, and in the doc, this happened. So scam. And I was like, so disappointed in the podcast because I was like, if you guys are claiming to be a research-based podcast that uncovers a scam and then reveals it, you got to uncover a scam and then reveal it. You're just quoting what you read that another guy wrote. Right. Why isn't the doc the scamfluencer in this case? And why didn't you even know or mention that she responded very detailedly, showing footage that disproves everything? Anyway. Yeah. So that was a bummer. And it's two women too, which really bummed me out because I was like, come on, ladies, like this is a woman being taken down by capitalism and you can't have a bitch's back. Let's go. You know, then again, I think it just really, I don't mean then again, I should say tangentially and on a related point. It's like we're all steeped in the white capitalist patriarchy, even we women. And sometimes we don't catch it.
Oh, yeah.
It also fucking bummed me out because at least one of those two women is a person of color. And I'm just like, as someone who's dealing with the white capitalist patriarchy directly all the time, as a woman and a person of color, you couldn't take 10 minutes to investigate further to find out if these quotes you're pulling have validity or if what's the counter argument?
Or just another aspect of that white patriarchy. Yeah.
Yeah. So that bummed me out. Now, I want to clearly state, I could be totally wrong. In like 2 years, we could find out Teal Swan is a lizard person and telling lies. But like every culty, they claim she's a cult leader and she's abusive. I don't know if I agree.
Yeah.
I don't agree. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm fucking wrong. And we'll find out she is a cult leader and was very abusive. Okay. Then I'll be sad.
Right. But now we learn, though, that like if you watch the doc and have watched the response to the doc and have a sense that, oh, wait, actually, it's not. But like if I just watch the doc, I'm just going to go, it's a doc. It must be the truth. And in our lurid, and we get off on the lurid details. So why wouldn't it be true? I want it in a fucked up way. I want it to be true.
That's it. That's the power of narrative storytelling.
Yeah.
She talks about that. She's like, a lot of you won't listen to me because it sounds like I'm just coming up with a great defense. But the power of narrative storytelling is we all love a good story. And it's a much better story if I turn out to be a crazy cult leader.
Yeah.
So of course you want that to be true. It's good theater.
Yeah. Oh, fuck. Damn it.
Isn't that fucked?
Can't believe anything ever about anything.
No.
Ah.
And I'll tell you, honestly, that's a large part of why I was like, I'm going to meet consciousness directly and God itself so that I can find out what's true and not have to listen to people. Because people be so delusional, full of shit, easy to sway, want a good narrative. There's a million fucking reasons not to trust
Sometimes
people.
we're lying because we know we're lying, and sometimes we're lying because we don't know we're lying.
Exactly. Or sometimes we're just straight up ignorant, saying some nonsense, and we don't fucking know.
Well, even me repeating, well, you know, there's a doc about her being bullshit is in a sense me possibly repeating lies that I don't actually know.
Exactly. And I've done the same.
Yeah.
I mean, a million times. That's why I'm just like,
it's really hard.
At this moment, I'm going to try really hard going forward not to just believe on face value shit that people say. It's just like...
All right, 20-minute tangent that I took us on or I forced you to go down to defend Teal Swan. But
it's all good stuff.
It's important information.
Yeah, no.
What did she say about contrast?
Yeah, so we went on the tangent because I keep mentioning her and like,
right.
I'm self-conscious about, I know how many people think she's full of shit.
Yeah.
But I also know how many people don't.
Yeah.
Like, so it's a tricky topic. So I wanted to address that. So I'm glad we went down that rabbit hole. But she talks a lot about contrast. And synchronistically on your topic, I'll just be like scrolling the internet and it'll be Teal Swan, contrast. And I'll be like, cool. And then like days later, I'll be like Googling, like, get my tire fixed. And the video will come up, new ideas about contrast from Teal Swan. Like the universe is like, can you learn this now about contrast? And I'm like, okay, cool.
Well, and let's add into that now with fucking algorithms.
I know.
Their algorithms have actually probably turned up a false version of synchronicity into our lives that is massive.
Yeah. Agreed.
Which is why we have paranoid delusion around synchronicity.
Exactly.
Because it's being forced on us, and it's actually not synchronicity because it's actually been orchestrated. And now I'm sounding paranoid because I just said the word orchestrated.
Well, no, I get it. It's true. It is being orchestrated. That's not paranoid. That's just reality. But so, yes, I get that the algorithm is showing me what I've clicked on. The problem is with the Teal Swan stuff is I click on all her shit, literally all of her shit. But just the last, I don't know, month, it's just been like the algorithm only shows me shit about contrast. And I'm like, okay, well, we're going to learn about this now, whether it's synchronicity or not.
Interesting.
Okay, so I've been sitting with it for a while and really kind of processing it and pondering it. And I kind of get why, through my lens, right? I'm just a lady with a perspective, right? I have seen a lot of evidence in my life that everything on the outside, that the law of mirroring is true. I like to call it the law of mirroring, not the law of attraction, because I think it's more complex than the law of attraction claims.
Right.
The law of mirroring is if you're carrying an energy, you're going to see that energy externally to reflect it to you so you can face it, deal with it, make a choice around it consciously. Okay. So
that could even be described, I feel like, as, on the psychological level, even if we don't take it to the spiritual, I'm tuned into that thing. So I'm going to see it more easily and more often.
Sure.
Yeah.
Which is another way of saying the same thing. I have to apologize because guess what I have to do? Urinate. Can we take 2?
Let's do it. Let's take the 2.
You're the best.
Hey, what's up? It's Rami. So it is spring. Now you'll probably hear this weeks after I've recorded it, but right now while I'm recording it, it is spring in New York and it's breathtaking. When I moved to New York, I moved in late November 2016 and folks were like, why are you moving to New York right before the winter? But turns out the answer was so I could go through the whole winter and then experience the spring. And oh my God, it's just stunning. Having grown up in a place that doesn't have extreme distinct seasons in that classic way, I mean, it just literally, I feel my heart singing because it's at the point in Prospect Park where the leaves are not fully open yet, but they're unfurling and they're noticeably larger every day. So every day as I go through the park, I am seeing a different view, and the color is impossibly green, neon green, as if lit internally green, and with the shapes of the leaves not being fully opened, and the trees everywhere. It looks like lace work. It looks like neon green lace everywhere. Neon green lace. That reminds me of the early 80s. It's not unusual to weep looking at this. And of course, I'm not even talking about the fabulous pink puffballs of the blossoms. Oh, I'm glad I don't have seasonal allergies. Rami's rules.
Okay, you're back.
Hitting record. There we are. Okay, so I'm going to try to do this as concisely as I can, but there's a lot to it. I think what I'll do is speak about this from, I guess I'll tell the narrative of my journey with contrast to make the point about the value of contrast. I think that's the way to go. Okay, so with the trauma I had, right, and the things I was trying to heal and integrate, for a long time, the only thing that worked at all to heal anything inside me was a high vibrational conscious light or divine light or God's love or whatever. Divine light transmission would penetrate through all the layers of defense and darkness and stuff in my system. It just was the only thing that worked. I tried therapy, nothing happened, but tried it for years, didn't work. I just did so many things. And then this one thing worked. After I'd say about 8 years of trying everything, this thing worked. So I got real into the thing, divine light transmission. Then what started to happen is the more I did it, it started to change my experience of being alive into being a very peaceful feeling, a lot of unification, you could say, of my inner landscape with the landscape of the divine. And then as was witnessed on the podcast here, I've been through this over these last 3 years. Then it was consciousness came into the conversation. Remember, I was all God, spirit, God. And then I was so also consciousness. And I'm learning about the relationship between the two.
Yeah.
You remember that? That started in Colorado.
Yeah. And I kind of even remember the very, almost, I don't know if it was the first time, but on the podcast, you kind of playing around being I kind of want to talk to consciousness. Is that weird? And then you open up to consciousness. And from that day on, it was like, oh, fuck, that's mostly who I want to talk to.
So now I have this, where I'm at now with it is this, I call it God consciousness in my own conversation with myself and it.
Gonciousness.
Gonciousness.
Not
that
catchy.
Is funny. I like
gross.
it.
Feels kind of gross.
It does. I kind of like it. I'll say why it's both later if we want to talk about that, because it's important why it's both.
And if you're thinking about lady parts, it's consciousness. Back to the subject at hand. Very important, very deep, very
okay.
Needing of respect.
We're having fun, guys. We're having fun. So the experience in my nervous system of doing a lot of work with Gonciousness, which also sounds like it's about ganja.
It does.
But it's not. So maybe we have to stick with consciousness.
That's the goddesses.
Chaunch.
The goddess consciousness.
The chaunch's consciousness.
If you're thinking about my belly, it's ponchiousness. And if I could go on, I won't. We got to get back to the subject at hand. We got work to do here, people. Do your work.
Do your work.
Eunice, meaness, usness, weeness, yourness, minus, ourness, happiness.
Sickness.
So,
oh God.
The feeling of communion with consciousness is very peaceful. And it's not a feeling that's very into contrast. Like it's a feeling that's it's unity, it's oneness. It's like there's no separation between me and you, right? And we've talked on the podcast a lot about the idea of unity consciousness and oneness and all that. Well, I've talked on here about having a bit of a feeling like, well, shit, now that I have that, what do I do now? You remember that whole thing where I've been like, well, I got all the peace I was looking for.
Right.
I've got a bunch of years left. I didn't know it would happen now. So what do I do? Now what do I do? What am I in pursuit of? And I just for a while just wasn't doing a lot of healing on myself because I was like, well, I guess we're doing other stuff now. Like, I don't know what it is yet, but da-da-da. Then I started to realize through being on the East Coast, and which is why they have me here, all the relational stuff I still have to work through, like relational trauma, connection, intimacy, all that stuff, right? Which is very in the body. It's much more 3D. It's much more duality based. And so I was sort of forced to.
So consciousness was like, oh, that's adorable that you think you're done. You're cute.
Yeah, of course. But I also was like, I can't be done. I know myself. So what's going on? I arrived at this one place. So what now? There must be a new thing. I just don't know what the fuck it is yet. Okay, so that's when all this teal swan contrast stuff started to show up in my feed. And it's real intense in the last month, like I said. And so I've been sitting with it. And it's very interesting because it's very lined up with human design. And as you know, my study of that has become quite deep and vast. And it's top of mind a lot of the time. So before, I thought the whole journey was about getting to unity where there were no pieces of separation within myself so that I could have peace. Okay, did that. Then I have this inner peace. Great. Then I'm not dead. So there's more to, now what? So then I was like, oh, that's the baseline center midline healing stuff. I had to just get to where on a baseline nervous system, spiritual, emotional level, I'm whole and okay. I'm good. I have peace inside. I'm not separated from myself. I have some integration. Okay. Now we can start dealing with contrast, which happens here. When you're okay, you can deal with contrast. When everything inside you is at odds with itself or at war or fragmented, it's almost like you can't tolerate contrast in the 3D form. It's not as easy to anyway, because you've got so much that's at odds with itself inside of you. I always picture it like a broken mirror or a broken pane of glass inside. And then let's say you were able to heal the glass. So now it's just a smooth pane of glass. Now, if inside you is a smooth pane of glass and then outside there's contrast, you can handle that better. So what is contrast? Contrast is that which is wanted and that which is unwanted. Things you like, things you don't like, things that make you comfortable, things that make you uncomfortable. Okay, it's the polarity that is inherent in this three-dimensional reality, which human design talks about. Everything is polarized in this universe. Everything is either a thing or its opposite. Everything is this or it's not this. Everything is based in duality in this realm. Now, again, just for the people on a spiritual journey listening, if you're really uncomfortable with that idea, it probably speaks to your internal fragmentation that needs healing so that you can feel peaceful and unified within yourself, after which external duality isn't such a threat anymore because you're whole and you're unified. So you're okay with things being dualistic outside of you. You with me so far?
Yeah.
Okay. So she talks about, okay, let me do this way. I went to California. I drove there by choice in April. I had this incredible experience, of California's beauty, which I believe in large part, the incredibleness of that trip came from contrast, which is to say, I've been on the East Coast for a couple of years now. The East Coast is a very different, not heart-centered energy. It's earthy in the South, which is a kind of spirituality, and it's heady mental in the Northeast. But it's not heart. Like there's a little bit of heart in the sort of Virginia hills and the like Pennsylvania hills. But these are not parts of the country that are like steeped in the frequency of heart vibration. California is. I now understand this from having traveled so much. Okay. So when I went back to California after 3 years away from it, I felt so swimming in the ocean of heart energy. I was in love with California because it was not the East Coast.
Right.
I could value the heart energy of California because of the contrast of the East Coast. Now, the opposite just happened to me. This is so interesting. I'm so obsessed. Everything happens exactly how it needs to happen, even when you have a shitty hotel and there's lightning. Okay. This time I fly to California, as we all know, have a nightmarish experience of flying on the first plane. I had to take a second plane the same day. Perfect flight. No turbulence at all. My flight from Phoenix to Oakland, right? It was like whoosh, like just like up, down, have a great day, as if flying is never a problem for anyone. Contrast. I loved flying after the turbulent flight. Loved it. Now, I drive back. All this craziness happens. It's awful and hard and stressful from the heart place back to what I'll call Florida, which is the body place. That's how I experience it. Getting to the body place, I was like, and I made a joke about this at the beginning of this episode, but here, the truer picture of it is, oh my God, I'm so happy to be here because when I'm in Florida, I'm in touch with my gut. And I'm a gut type. I'm an 8 Enneagram. We're gut people, right? I have a heart, I have a mind, but my orientation to reality is through my gut. I come to Florida and it's all gut all day. And I've got this great opportunity in Atlanta with this new agent. And I'm like, oh my God, Florida, the body is where my gut is. I get the value of that because of the contrast of the heart energy I just experienced in California. So what am I trying to get at? And what are we to take from this? It's like, if you're home too much, you're excited to go out with people. If you're out all the time, all you want to do is go home.
Yeah.
So contrast shows us what we need, but it shows us what we need in the moment, not forever.
Yes.
And so if ever we're dealing with, anytime I've ever thought to myself, well, I'm fucked now and this is how it is forever. It never is. It's the short-term moment of what is. That's about to change, and I'm about to appreciate something else a lot because of the contrast of having been where I just was.
Yeah. So
Teal Swan talks about wanted and unwanted, and she talks about it a lot in terms of relationships, right? People get in relationships and they go, I want someone like XYZ, and then they get that someone. Then they find out that the someone with XYZ also has ABC, and they go, oh, but I didn't want ABC. I better break up with this person because I wanted XYZ. And she's like, that's not it. You're always going to have contrast in relationship. Always. If it's because you live in a 3D reality and everything in 3D reality is contrast or duality. So she talks about asking the question, what is my relationship to contrast? And what do I make it mean? You know what I'm saying?
What is my relationship and what do I make it mean? That's that going back to that fucking narrative problem.
Back to narrative. Yes. So if Chauncey and I have places in our dynamic between us where we're different and we bristle against each other. This practice I'm in right now with him is because we've been together so many fucking times. I have just a totally different relationship to the contrast in our dynamic. And I'm like fascinated by this because it's what everybody was trying to tell me the whole time, but the people I was looking up to, but I couldn't get it. But you know why? It's because I needed the contrast of not having contrast. Allow me to explain.
I would love to. Continue.
When I was in when I was in Colorado, and
You're allowed.
Thank you. And I dated Newman Manfredson. He and I were the same frequency of light. Same. No contrast. After a while, it died because water doesn't need more water. Water needs a glass to be put in so that it becomes a drink.
Opposites attract is a thing that we often say. There's a song by Janet Jackson and an animated cat.
But what if...
And now I'm just thinking about that. Like I'm thinking about some couples that I know and love. Sometimes it's a nightmare because opposites clash. But sometimes that, sometimes you're like, well, why are they still together? What? No, that person's so different from you. And you even like have conflict around the differences sometimes. And that makes me uncomfortable. So now I'm just sitting in that thought. I don't have an end to that answer.
Yeah, me either. I don't have this figured out either. But what I want to say about it is, because now a whole different topic is compatibility. Like you're either compatible with someone or you're not. But what we're talking about here is one's relationship to contrast, which is to say that is a thing unto itself that has to get worked through or processed. Now that doesn't, even if let's say with Chauncey, I worked that through and I realized, oh, I've just been in judgment of our contrast. Oh, I healed that. Oh, now I still realize we're incompatible. Uh-huh. We could still be incompatible. I don't know, or we could discover we're more compatible than we thought because of I did my work around my relationship to contrast. But I think all I'm saying about for me and hoping this is relevant to people is we can start to notice when something is unwanted, an experience that we're having is unwanted, like the little quip I'm always saying that whatever's happening to you is not happening to you, it's happening for you.
Right.
You know that idea?
Yeah.
The only way to get to really knowing that for ourselves is to work with our resistance to what's happening to us. Uh-huh. Or you could say work with what's coming up inside of what's happening to us. So it doesn't.
And ultimately it becomes for you because you did the work.
Correct. If you do the work.
Even though it sucked when it happened.
Yeah. So like, I can't stop thinking about like they're showing me, I'm getting, through my awareness let me see if I can put words to this. The energy of this terror, turbulence, lightning thing for me is literally the opposite energy of this perfection peace thing I have running through the middle of me. Can't miss that. Like they keep showing it to me. They're like, cool, you pursued perfect peace. You have perfect peace. Like I have access to that. That sounds very like, I think I'm enlightened or something. It's not. It's a kind of just internal wholeness that makes me feel related to peace and consciousness. Look, I'm proud of it. I'm glad I got it. Here we are. But there's more. But wait, there's more for me on my journey. And now it's like, they're like, cool, here's the contrast to that. They're showing it to me. And I'm like, wow, all right. What is the takeaway or what is the teaching in looking at the contrast? And what I know is I have something to sit with. They're giving me all kinds of downloads as now I'm talking about this in terms of the kind of polarity I've created between my internal peace reality and three-dimensional reality. So there's something for me and it's happening right as I talk about this, that's integrating now that I think has to do with me being good with or present to three-dimensional reality more. Like, in other words, if you're living effectively or correctly, you could say, inside of three-dimensional reality, you would have access to everything beyond three-dimensional reality, but you'd also be firmly rooted in three-dimensional reality. I think I had to go far beyond it in order to heal. And now the healing is taking me into it.
Into 3D reality.
So I'm guessing into 3D. Yeah. So I'm guessing that when I'm 50, which is the coming off the roof time for a 6'2" in human design, which I am, a 6'2" profile, we come off the roof, which means we're pulled back into the world. From age 28 to 50, 6'2s are on the roof, on the roof means you're kind of removed from life and there's like a distance between you and life. And then at 50, if you've done your work, you become the hermit role model for the people and you're pulled back into reality in a way that is much more three-dimensional. And I am tripping out about how I'm close to 50. I'm 46. And I feel like the timing is going to be completely exactly perfect for me to have reintegrated into 3D or integrated, whichever word, into 3D reality with this multidimensional beyond consciousness into my 3D body by the time I'm 50. And here I am getting all these lessons in contrast to take me there. You know, it's just what's that thing? The crucible. I'm in the crucible of this polarity of like perfect peace and like desperate terror. Because when you think about it, a child that's traumatized, right? A child, 6 months old, would have to retreat into perfect peace, God, in order to survive torturous terror.
Right.
So it makes total sense that I'm looking at these two things and that they're starting to spin and spin and spin around each other in the, not crucible. What's the thing where the electrons spin around? A collider?
A collider? Centrifuge? I don't know.
A centrifuge.
Well, that's just like physical things. Yeah, like it spins two liquids apart.
Yeah.
Or whatever. Yeah.
Oh, it spins them apart?
I don't know. I don't know science. Who do you think I am? Smart?
Okay. Well, in a centrifuge, I think it's a centrifuge. I think what happens is things spin around each other until they become one thing and they integrate. I think. Like if you have two substances in a centrifuge, they ultimately become one.
Okay.
But maybe you're right that they split apart. But then anyway, it doesn't matter. The point is, these two molecules, perfect peace and desperate terror, are going like this. I don't know how to show this to the audience, but they're coming closer and closer and closer to each other. And I believe that when they meet, they're going to integrate, and that's going to look like Katie Rubin now is in 3D reality.
I feel like that is more of a crucible because you're like going to melt the two things into a liquid, and then they're going to mingle and become an alloy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, that's not to say I'm not in 3D reality at all. And it's also not to say that 3D reality is better than beyond. And it's also not to say beyond 3D is better than 3D. This is where people piss me off in the spiritual world, where they're like, I'm living in 5D all the time. And I'm like, if you're saying you're living in 5D all the time, that means you're not in 3D all the time. And guess where your body is?
Here.
Your body is in 3D all the time.
Yeah, because you're still here. So there's a reason you're still here, which is to exist here as well.
So cool. Now, how integrated are you? If you can do 3D and 5, good for you. But if you think you're superior to other normal people because you live in 5D, you're missing the whole fucking point. Squeezel, oh my God. Where do you live?
I want to be a lumbar.
She lives in 18D. Don't you?
Sidebar, I just had the image of a scientist listening and just cringing, and then a metal worker listening and just cringing, and then like all the people who work in the actual field that we're trying to metaphor the shit out of, just going, that's not how a crucible works. That's not how a collider.
Yeah, I have a few friends I'm thinking of. Yeah, Lauren Benedict. If he heard this, he'd be like, Jesus Christ, atoms don't work that way. Fuck everything.
Stop with your shitty metaphors. Just say the thing. That's funny. Oh, I love it. I was, while you were talking and while you were getting downloads, I was yawning a lot. I wasn't yawning before, so since your conversation with Claudia, our conversation with Claudia, where I was getting pummeled, it was the first time I really felt like I was getting washed by the same waves.
Light.
Yeah, that you were in. Like I was yawning, my body was like twitching. I was yawning. I was doing a lot of yawning. Now I've just started to notice when yawns happen like spontaneously.
Nice.
If that, and again, might be a narrative, but it also might be the thing.
Yeah.
Just while you were like, and then I started yawning, and I was like, oh, interesting, and just noticing. Don't know what to do with that.
Okay. I can tell you what I know.
Good.
Well, I can tell you what I know about that. Yeah. Which is that.
What do you know?
So yawning tends to be one of two things. You're clearing something for yourself or you're clearing something for me. the person you're relating to. Something is clearing, something is processing through. So you could sort of say it like either your body is aware of something that's clearing for me and it's showing you that awareness through the yawn, or something I'm saying or being or doing is creating a clearing for you. That's usually what yawning is. Yeah. So truth, are you clearing something for you? Yes. Are you clearing something for me? No. In this moment, something about this contrast talk or whatever the fuck, who knows, is bringing light through in such a way that something that isn't light for you is yawning its way out. So I'm very excited you're sharing that, because that means every time you're out in your life and you start to spontaneously yawn, there might be something to learn there.
Yeah. Just notice the moment and just be like, oh, there you go.
What you could ask, what am I clearing? What am I releasing? What's processing through me? I have my
gut narrative, and you're checking this, thank you, is that there's a bit of that. Whenever I've noticed it in the last couple weeks, my narrative has been one of like, oh, I'm picking up on something that's washing, that, you know, that something is coming at me from outside of me. Like, you know, when Claudia was your light, but maybe it is still that it's coming into me and it's forcing me to want to clear something.
It's more like consciousness is moving and it's clearing something out of you. Something that is not consciousness is being yawned out by the presence of consciousness.
So that's a Gonciousness.
That's what that is. That's what that is.
That is.
And you know what's so hard for my ego, but is so interesting, is like a lot of times in Chauncey's presence, I start yawning. And I'm like...
Because he has great Gonciousness.
He's so chaunchous. His chaunch is really hot. I like to have it in my mouth. He has a man chaunch. It's called a penis.
A maunch.
He has a maunch. Hey, you're killing it with the word blendings today.
I can't stop. I'm on it.
Clearly, you're chawing it.
I'm chawing it. Chawny Nichols. What?
So...
Go.
Now I can't say words because you're going to make every word be...
No, please. Nope. I literally was just saying go. Speak.
Oh, okay.
Back to you.
Anyway, yeah, he makes me yawn a lot, but he has a fifth line body. So his body is constantly showing me everything in myself that is not integrated, which is irritating because I would like to make him wrong, but I can't.
Oh, God.
It's really healthy, though.
So aware of defensiveness lately. Any defensive things that rise up in me.
Oh, that's good.
Now I'm like starting to I really want to notice for me, it's tied to embarrassment or shame, I think. My defensiveness, if it's like real, if it's like, no, if that's my reaction, it's because you just said something. You just accused me of something that I'm embarrassed at the possibility of being guilty of. I'm ashamed of the possibility of being guilty of.
Good for you.
Which probably means it's a little bit true.
At least a little bit.
Yeah.
For all my students listening, this is what we talk about. What Cassidy's pointing at here is the thing. When I make you guys do a fourth step, that's what he just did. He did a fourth step. He looked at what is his self-centered fear. The fear is, this is like the fourth column of the fourth step you look at what is the self-centered fear and what is the character defect associated with that self-centered fear. So in this case, you're afraid of that you're wrong. That's what shame is. Shame is I'm wrong. So the self-centered fear is I'm going to be embarrassed or I'm going to discover that I'm wrong and that'll make me feel embarrassed. So the character defect is pride or ego, which creates the need for defensiveness. So what he's doing is being aware of that and choosing to look at, instead of believing it, he's choosing to look at the original content that was stated to him and consider, maybe my defenses came up for a reason. Mm-hmm. Maybe there's truth in the thing being said now. So that's fourth step work right there. Good job.
And that's the difference between being defensive and actually needing to defend yourself, which is different.
Okay.
I think. I'm just using language here to work out a thought, but this idea that I think when I've pushed back on something, no, I'm not going to accept that. You can't put that on me, right? That feels very different than defensive. That's actually me standing up for myself. Standing up
for what's true.
And I'm proud of myself that I now actually do that. And I didn't ever used to do that. And so and they are very different energies, super different energies, but we think they might be the same. No, I won't let you say that to me, which is different than, no, I won't let you say that to me.
Right, because it's coming from two different places. One is coming from speaking for truth, and one is coming from avoiding truth. Yeah.
So uncomfortable. I just had a little rush of like, God, I hate that feeling. It's the worst.
Which one?
The defensive shame. It's shame. It's not just embarrassment. It's shame.
Yeah, that's it.
It is steeped in it. Yeah.
It's good stuff, man.
Yeah. Great stuff.
Covered a lot today.
We said things. We even kind of went into little consciousness-y. I mean, we did. Yeah. We downloaded, so.
I don't know what you people want. If you want more than this, I don't know what you fucking want.
We don't always have to like.
No.
Do launchiousness. We don't always have to fly.
How have you managed?
I got more. I want to say them all.
I can't believe. What else you got?
Well, I mean, because sometimes it's kind of a little bit spicy what we have to say. That's raunciousness doing its job.
What else you got?
Well, and sometimes it can be a little bit firm in what it has to say. What do you think that is? Staunciousness.
Oh, that's really good. Fuck. That's really good.
And sometimes we're a little afraid of what it has to say because it's a little overwhelming. That's Gonciousness.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it just wants to talk about a shrimp cocktail.
Consciousness.
Oh, that's another version of it. If you want to blow the shell to announce its presence, that's the consciousness.
Right.
And then, but if you're just talking about a shrimp cocktail, that's Pronciousness.
Oh my God. You're doing very well with this game. This is an improv game we play, essentially. There's a few.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
That's
killing
good.
it.
It's fun. Well,
good times.
Guess what I have to do?
Your work. Take a shit.
Also, yeah, which is my work right now. Honestly, that is my work in this moment, is to clean the system.
Go just dump that shit out of your butt, and that'll be you doing your work.
And you do whatever you need to do your work today.
All right, I'm going to work with contrast.
Okay, contrast.
In the form of...
Fuck, nah.
Right. In the form of shit. I'm going to shit again in honor of you and me shitting together.
And the fact that, and our shits will be totally different colors and consistencies.
Contrast,
ladies.
Namaste.
Namaste,
bye.
Motherfucker.
Were you asking for all of the answers? Say what? All of the answers? Yeah, all the answers.
Hey guys, thanks for listening. We'd love to hear from you. Please email us with your questions so that we have questions to answer in the Akashic Records. Our email address is allanswerspod@gmail.com. That's allanswerspod@gmail.com. And if you'd like to find us on Facebook or Twitter, it's @allanswerspod, @allanswerspod. Thank you.
Oh, I'm never doing that.
Mixed and edited by Desmond McNeese for We Mixed It, LLC. Go to whatsoundsawesome.com.
Not again. Why does it say pepper jam when there is no pepper jam? I swear to God, one of these days, I just kick this piece of out the window.
You and me both, man. I think it's lucky I'm not armed.
Piece of